Greetings everyone. This video is in reference to the new National Association of Realtors changes that happened in 2024, and it will be onwards. I believe the changes are being done in the August of this year. That's why this video is coming out in August. So this video is mainly in reference for members of our brokerage, but it also discusses a lot of the changes in the NAR. But a lot of the things I'll be going over in this video is to help members of our brokerage stay in compliance with our new office policy changes and just be safe and not do anything that could be against the ethics and rules of the NAR along with our brokerage policies. So with that, let's just get straight into the video and discuss about what's important and what we're going to go over today. The first thing with changes, the most important, is that in the MLS there are no offers of realtor compensation anymore. So previously, before August of 2024, you could list properties in the MLS. You could write how much compensation the listing brokerage was going to offer, whether it be a flat fee or a percentage of the sales price, but you can no longer do that. The MLS is only going to be for advertising properties for sale, and all discussions of compensation or any type of money related to the buyer's broker needs to be done outside of the MLS. You cannot write anything in the MLS about compensation, or I guess they used to call commissions. Now they don't want us calling it commissions anymore, so I'm just going to use the word compensation for the purposes of this video. But basically no monetary, no money offering for the buyer's broker in the MLS. You can't offer any percentages of the sales price. All that must be discussed outside of the MLS. So, what does that mean? If you're a member of our brokerage and you're listing properties on the MLS, you cannot put anywhere on the MLS listing any type of offers of compensation. The MLS is strictly for just advertising the property, pictures, talking about the property, how many bedrooms, different amenities in the community. Nothing related to compensation money at all for the buyer's broker. That is to be discussed outside of the MLS. And you could do that if you're a member of our brokerage. When agents call you, text you, you just do everything outside of the MLS. The MLS strictly prohibits any discussions of compensation or advertisements of compensation on the MLS moving forward. So it's simple enough. You can't list any compensation on the MLS. The other thing that's most important is if you're a member of our brokerage, and if also you're a member of the NAR, but definitely if you're a member of our brokerage, regardless if you're with the NAR or not, you must use a buyer brokerage agreement. No more verbal agreements. So what does this mean? This means that realtors previously, or sales associate previously, they would meet buyers and they would go tour properties strictly on verbal communications and agreements. You wouldn't sign a contract as a buyer's realtor with the buyers. You would just work off of a good faith verbal agreement that that particular buyer is going to work with you. And you just draft up a sales contract when it came time to get serious on a property. Well, those days are over. Moving forward now, and the purpose of this video, if you are a member of our brokerage, you must, if you are working with any buyers before you tour any properties, or please refer to our brokerage policy and procedures manuals. If you're working with a buyer in any way, shape, form, or fashion, you must have a contract with that buyer. We have contracts that we prefer that you use, but you must have some type of buyer brokerage agreement and a contract with that buyer. You cannot just be working off verbal agreements anymore. You must have a contract with all the buyers you're working with before you tour properties, before you really start getting serious with that buyer at all. And you cannot work with that buyer or represent them or give them any information if you're a member of our brokerage without having a contract or some type of buyer brokerage agreement with that buyer. So, with that being said, I do have videos on our YouTube channel, and I'll be making new ones of the new contracts for buyer brokerage agreements. They look like this. This is the newest one. I'm not going to go over this contract now. I'm going to make a separate video. I'm just discussing the changes and the new office policies that we have with our brokerage. But this is the buyer brokerage agreement, an example of one that our brokerage recommends. And if you're working with a buyer, you need to fill out this buyer brokerage agreement. And I'm going to make another video. I do have a previous one on our YouTube channel of how to draft this. It's similar, but this is the newer one. So I will be making another video on how to draft this buyer brokerage agreement. So that's the first thing if you're a member of our brokerage to understand. And also if you're a member of the NAR, is that you need to have a buyer brokerage agreement if you're going to be working with buyers. No more verbal agreements, no more just going to show homes with no documentation, no paperwork, which I personally never recommended to begin with. But that's just my personal and professional opinion. You'll need to have buyer brokerage agreements moving forward if you're a member of our brokerage. The other thing is compensation. As we already discussed, there's going to be no advertisements or anything on the MLS as far as the compensation that's being offered from the listing broker or the seller if you bring a buyer to that property. So you're going to be highly encouraged if you're a member of our brokerage to use some type of agreement, and here's a good one that's provided, is the compensation agreement. You could use this one, which is seller's broker to buyer's broker, if you're going to have the listing broker compensate the buyer's broker, or you could use this other agreement here, which is the seller to buyer's broker, if the seller is going to compensate the buyer's broker directly. So the listing broker can compensate the buyer's broker, or the seller can compensate the buyer's broker directly. I'm not going to go over this document right now. I'm going to do it in a separate video, but these are the documents that you should be using to receive compensation when you discuss and negotiate outside of the MLS, because you cannot discuss compensation on the MLS. So for example, if you're working with a buyer, you see a property that your buyer likes, you could call up the listing broker and ask them how much compensation is being offered, and they'll let you know, and then you could work it out with either the broker compensating you or the seller compensating the buyer's broker directly. So that's what you'll use this form. You do not write your commission into the sales contract anymore. If you charge transaction fees or anything, you would not write that in the sales contract. It's going to be done in separate compensation agreements like this, and if you're charging the buyers any type of fees, you should be using the exclusive buyer brokerage agreement to state what fees you're charging the buyer. So the compensation agreements is what you'll be needing to use moving forward. You cannot rely on the MLS for guaranteeing you a commission anymore, and in my opinion, you never should have to begin with. I always recommended that you have some type of separate agreement like this to state how much your commission is, who you're representing, and how much is due to the buyer's broker when the sale is closed, or the lease, whichever type of deal you're working on. So these are the couple of changes. Just to recap, we have here is one, there's no offers of compensation in the MLS anymore, and you must use these buyer brokerage agreements. There's also several other minor details that you could contact the NAR and look through our brokerage policy if you're a member of our brokerage to see what's changed and what's important. But these are the main things that are really changing within the industry that you need to know about and the purposes of this video. Please keep an eye out on our YouTube channel for the contracts such as this buyer brokerage agreement and this compensation agreement. I will be doing a tutorial for these specific ones moving forward, but for right now, these are the major changes. If you're a member of our brokerage, feel free to contact us if you have any further questions or concerns. Thank you.